No, no, no. Oh my god, bro. I'm never gonna beat this. Come on. Oh, don't don't mind what I was doing. Don't just cut to the B-roll. Cut to the B-roll right now. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy JKT. Welcome back to another video. Today, I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys my thought on the bloody SP80 gaming mouse. And this mouse is got some very interesting features that I don't know how I feel about just yet, but we're gonna go ahead and talk about it right now. So, without further ado, let's get into the video. Now, starting off with the construction of the mouse, the construction overall is fairly solid. It does come in at 98 grams with the cable or 94 grams without the cable. Looking around the mouse, it does have 8 programmable buttons, and it does come with a non-rubberized black slip coating, which is supposed to help with comfort. You do also get a plastic body around it with grooves to help for comfort and shape. And I will say that I do like the non-rubberized coating at the top, but I am not a big fan of the texturized plastic on the side. To me, this makes it a little bit uncomfortable when picking up the mouse, or if I'm doing flick shots. It just doesn't feel very comfortable or secure in my hand, and it could be just because of the fact that I have very sweaty hands when I play for an extensive period of time. So it is something to keep in mind if you live in a humid area or you do have sweaty hands. That it's not really ideal for that use case. So it is a medium-sized mouse. I would say that it's ideal for fingertip and claw grip users. You can also palm grip, so my hand is about 17 centimeters from the index to my wrist by 8 centimeters width, and I was able to palm it and it'd be very comfortable for me. It does have grooves on the left and right click, so it made it very comfortable. You can I can't even speak. You can easily distinguish the difference between the left and right buttons, and it was very comfortable overall. You definitely can palm it, but I probably would say this is definitely going to be ideal for those claw grip or fingertip users out there. Speaking of buttons, let's go ahead and talk about the buttons. So you do have your side buttons, you do have the left and right click, the scroll wheel, and 3 buttons on the top. Now, a little bit later in the video, I'm going to go ahead and talk about those 3 buttons, but I want to focus on the scroll wheel and the left and right click. So the scroll wheel has a nice rubberized texture, very smooth and precise scroll wheel. It is using an optical switch, so it should help with wear and tear. It's not too stiff and not too loose. It's really, really nice. The left and right click are using optical switches, but they are using Bloody's custom optical switches, which are called Light Strike. Now, what this is supposed to do is supposed to give you a much faster response from the time you click to the time it registers on the computer. So they estimate about 0.02 milliseconds or 0.2 milliseconds response time. So this actually really interests me because I wanted to see how this held up against other gaming mouse. I don't know if it's mice or mouse. I keep saying the wrong thing, but nonetheless, I can put it against the Razer Viper and also the Cooler Master MM710. And I did a quick benchmark reaction test benchmark to see if I noticed a big difference between the SP80, the Viper, and the MM710. Now, what I found with my reaction time was both the SP80 and the Razer Viper were the exact same at 171 milliseconds averaging, and the MM710 was 173 milliseconds. So I was a little bit faster with the Viper and the SP80 than I was with the MM710. So it's something to keep in mind if you're looking for a mouse with really fast clicks there. So not 1 millisecond, 0.2 milliseconds. So something to keep in mind there, which is really nice. The left and right clicks are pretty stiff, so you do have to click on them a little bit harder than you would with other gaming mouse. Now, this is because of the fact that they do have what is called the anti-double click. So what this is supposed to help prevent is from the mouse registering 2 clicks or accidentally 2 clicking instead of 1. Now, I'll be honest with you, I've never had this issue with any other mouse that I've used in the past, and even now, I've never had an issue where the mouse accidentally does 2 clicks instead of 1. if you have had this issue before, then this mouse is supposed to help prevent from that. So something to also keep in mind. All right, now we're gonna go from the top of the mouse to the bottom of the mouse. So of course, talking about the sensor real quick, it is using a PMW3360 sensor. This is of course a top optical sensor. I didn't have any issues when playing games whatsoever. It's overall a really good sensor. So nothing bad about that there. If you've used a 3360 sensor before, you know how good it is. However, what is different are the 4 feet that it has at the bottom. So these are not hyperglides and they are not Teflon. These are Bloody's X-Glide feet, or they call them X-Glide metal boots. And what these are is metal grade aluminum, which is supposed to help with durability, and they're both be much more durable than Teflon feet. Now I will say, as far as the experience with using these across my BenQ mouse pad, these things, look, come here. These things, they're buttery smooth. These are really good mouse feet. They glide across my mouse pad with almost no friction whatsoever. I will even go as far as to say they are almost a little bit better, just a little bit better than Hyperglide feet. But it's kind of one of those things you kind of have to try this mouse out and use the feet in order to really determine that. Now, I'll probably have to do some more playing around with this versus another mouse with Hyperglide feet to really determine if it's truly better. But from my experience, these things are buttery smooth. If you've ever seen butter fly off a pan when it's really hot, this is how this mouse is. They're really good. All right, now it is also does come with a braided cable. This is not a para cable, which is a little bit on the disappointing side. So it's not as flexible as a paracord cable is. So for example, it's not as flexible as the Cooler Master MM710. It is a little bit on the stiffer side. I also will say too, if you are not using a mouse bungee, you probably do want to use a mouse bungee with this mouse specifically because of the feet. Because the feet are able to glide across any mouse pad pretty much really smoothly with no friction, and it doesn't really keep the mouse in place. As you can see here, when I bring down the cable, it will sometimes pull the mouse with it, or the mouse will just start going into that direction. So it is something to keep in mind if you are using this mouse. I definitely recommend getting a bungee with it. All right, so before we go ahead and talk about the 3 buttons in the software, I wanted to go ahead and give you guys, of course, a quick sound test, because what would this review be without a sound test? So without further ado, Yarmis, play that sound test. Beautiful. So overall, like I said, the clicks are really nice with this mouse. Like I said, the only weak one I'd say is probably the side buttons. They're not the most tactile, but they're not the worst. They're not too mushy either. So I would say they're a C. They're average. So they will at least graduate from college. But let's go ahead and talk about the 3 buttons at the top, because this to me was kind of where I found this mouse to be interesting. Now, as far as the software goes, it does use the Bloody 7 software. Now, as far as the software, the overview of it, I don't like it. It's very slow to start up, clunky, and very confusing and complex. I would have liked to have maybe seen it a little bit more intuitive, a little bit easier to understand, and a little bit more updated. I mean, we're in 2019, guys, and we don't need that old school gamer-ish look unless you really want it. If you want it, perfect for you. But for me, a little bit of nicer software. Now, as far as the 3 buttons in the top, originally I thought these 3 buttons were to change the DPI. However, I quickly found out that is not the case. Now, you can actually change your DPI, but it's not very obvious how to do it. So let me explain. So you are able to change it in 5 different stages, which are in increments of 100. Now, if you want to go ahead and change it on the actual mouse to switch between the DPIs that you set, what you will have to do is, one, make sure you have your DPIs set to whatever you want. Once you do that, you will double click on the number 1 button on the mouse. That will flash it. Make it flash red. When it's flashing red, you can use the scroll wheel to scroll between the different DPI settings that you've chose, or sensitivity of the mouse that you've chosen. Once you choose the one that you wanted, just hit 1 and it'll go ahead and stay on that one. Now, like I said, this wasn't kind of shown to me at the beginning. I did see it on the side of the software there. It talked about the 1 button, but I don't know. maybe it's just me, but I wasn't really a big fan of this implementation of it. I would have just liked to maybe have seen a DPI button at the bottom of it, so it's just easy to switch between the DPI settings instead of having to do it this way. I think that this way is just, the execution is not very well thought out, in my opinion. Speaking of which, that does leave 2 of the buttons on the top, which are the letter N and the number 3. Now, what I discovered based off of just playing around with the software was that if you go to the Core 2 tab, there are 4 different core modes that you can choose from. And these core modes will be tailored to specific styles of FPS games, which I believe and I assume this is what this mouse is kind of gearing towards. So I used the Ultra Core 3 and Core 2. So what I did to test this out was I opened up Overwatch and I went into training mode and used Soldier 76 since he has a assault gun that would be able to kind of help me distinguish the difference between what they do. So the Core 2 kind of just tells you what it is. It's for primary FPS games, and it tells you what each button does. So it tells you that number 1 is going to be for single mode, number 2 is 2 burst shot, number 3 is 3 burst shot, and number 4, which where's number 4 on this mouse? I don't know, but number 4 is a 4 burst shot. So I don't know, maybe I'm overlooking something, but I didn't see a number 4 on the mouse. Nonetheless, pretty much that was self-explanatory. The Ultra Core 3 wasn't as explanatory as that one, but what I found out is that the Ultra Core 3 mode, when shooting the gun, it actually lowers how fast he actually shoots. So number 1 is the default, number 2 reduces it a little bit. I'm not too sure as far as percentage wise how much it reduces it, maybe 50? I'm not too sure, I'm not even going to try. But number 3 even lowers it even more. So it actually changes how quickly he's able to fire that gun. So I'm not necessarily a big fan of these buttons being on the top, nor their functionality. I guess I understand how these could actually be useful for somebody else, but for me personally, I didn't really find any use for them. I would have liked to maybe saying, again, a better implementation of this, maybe having it where if you play different kind of FPS style games, you'd have the ability to switch between the profiles, so that way you would be able to utilize all the profiles, or, you know, just finding a different way to be able to make that work. Even when you go to set up the macros, it doesn't even have the option to set up the letter N and number 3 macros. You have to do that in its own custom tab. So this is where I say the software is not very intuitive, and it doesn't really kind of make any sense. So I'm not a big fan of the software nor the implementation of this. Again, I can see where this could be useful for some, but to me, a majority, I don't think most people are going to be really using this setting. So you're probably going to just use it really to go in, change your sensitivity, maybe adjust the lift-off distance and surface calibration, but that's kind of about it. So now overall, I was actually very impressed with the mouse, even with the poor software and implementation of the buttons at the top. The construction of it is really well. I love the X glide feet. Like I said, this is just one of those things you just have to try it out to really understand. These are really, really good mouse feet. It uses a top optical sensor. It uses really good switches on the scroll wheel and the left and right click. The side buttons are a little bit on the weaker side, and I'm not a big fan of the textured plastic sides, but overall it was a very comfortable mouse. I did have a good time using it, and if you can also catch this on Amazon sometimes on sale, or get a 15% coupon. So originally its price is $60, but you can get it down to $45. So I'd say around that price point, this is definitely a good mouse to try out. Definitely say overall pretty solid. It is competing with a lot of other gaming mice out there, so that is something to keep in mind if you are looking at other mouses. It's definitely competing in a very saturated market, but nonetheless, it definitely is worth something you guys should take a look at. So hopefully this helped you understand a little bit more about the mouse. Like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's kind of nice to be able to try out a mouse and it's a good mouse that's not owned by a top professional company. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. Of course, if you guys also want to talk with me outside of the YouTube world, I'm also on Twitch as well. So come on over there, hang out with me. We can talk about mice or mouses. I don't even know how to say it. Mouse or mices. We can talk about mices all day. We can talk about anything you guys want. So hop over on there. Check me out. I usually stream every Thursday and Friday. That's probably going to be changing here soon. But nonetheless, come check me out over on Twitch. Love to see you guys there. Of course, make sure you like the video. And if you are new to the channel, you see that red button over there? And you see that beautiful thing? Make sure you hit it. See what happens when you hit it. That way, you don't miss any of me and any more future videos, because there's more mice. mice. I'm probably triggering a lot of you guys, and trust me, I'm triggering myself because I want to say it right. It's really weird. But let me know down in the comments below, what are your favorite type of feet? Do you guys like hyperglide feet? Do you like the traditional Teflon? Or are you interested in giving these X-Glide aluminum feet a try? I want to hear your thoughts. And until next time, guys, I'll talk to you in the next video. Take it easy. Stay techy.